Hello, Fort Worth mom friends. My name is Katherine Sasser. I am really excited to be with you tonight virtually for this awesome event, Home for the Holidays. I think it's such a fabulous idea, and I'm really honored to get to be a part of it and get to be with you virtually this evening. I am going to get to hang out with you 3 times, and I really hope that you and I get to connect and get to know each other a little bit better. We have a lot of fun things planned to talk about, and my goal with each of our sessions together is to not only equip you with practical tools for practicing hospitality, but also to begin to address a shift in your mindset when it comes to the ideas behind welcoming others. Hospitality is not about a perfect performance. Hospitality is about creating space for others to come in so that we can connect and change. It's that simple. I hope that that idea frees you from any of the pressures associated with hospitality and allows you to step in to what really matters this holiday season. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about that in other sessions, but for now, let's talk about cheese. I think there is no wrong time for a cheese board. I mean, any day, any situation, a cheese board just fits the bill, particularly around the holidays when we're looking for low stress ways to feed those that we love. A cheese board really can be perfect. My family and I tend to be traveling back into town on Christmas Eve, and as such, because we're coming back into town, we don't really have a great meal plan. So a few years ago, I started building a kind of a giant cheese board for our dinner for Christmas Eve. And it has turned out to be one of the most fabulous traditions. My children talk about it, they look forward to it. And it allows us to kind of eat at our own pace while we're doing other things like wrapping gifts or putting on Christmas pajamas or unpacking from being out of town or watching a holiday movie. It's just kind of a help yourself at your own pace dinner. I don't have to cook anything, but it still feels really special and intentional, and that's the perfect combination for me. So what I'm going to share with you tonight, if you're daunted by cheese boards, just exhale with me, because I'm going to share a formula with you. And it won't matter where you buy your cheese, it won't matter what cheese you buy, as long as you follow the formula, it works every time. I love a good formula. I love a recipe that I can trust, and I love knowing that it turns out every time. And this cheese board formula fits the bill. So here's the formula. I'm gonna say it, and then I'm gonna show you. So hang with me. The formula is start with a brie, add something sliceable, add something spreadable. Then add a fruit, add a nut, add a sticky thing, and add crackers. If you want to keep going, you can add a lot of the special fun things, but in a nutshell, that is the formula for a perfect cheese board every time. Are you ready to see this in action? I'm ready to show you. Let's build a cheese board together. Before we get started with the cheese, we need something to build our cheese board on. And I want to emphasize this. Get something bigger than you could possibly imagine needing. I love to use my biggest cutting board, which is what I have here. But no matter what you use, make sure it's flat and not kind of divoted in the center. So I'm using this giant cutting board. Cheese boards just take more space than you think. I'm also going to be using an assortment of these white ramekins in a few different sizes. I also have these cute tiny little mason jars, and I love this glass pedestaled bowl from Sur La Table. It comes in really handy. If you don't have this kind of thing, just look for anything small that can contain some of your ingredients. Things like teacups can work, small glass bowls, even those clear punch cups that are disposable, those can work too. I also want to talk about the tools that you use to cut the components on your cheese board. These cheese board knife sets are really beautiful and they're really cute and I love them, but don't be afraid if you have a cheese that is a little harder. Sometimes you really just need to bring out a great paring knife so that your guests can actually get the cheese. There's nothing more frustrating than not having the tool you need. I also have a small collection of some pretty little spreaders that I use from time to time. I love these little baby spoons. They're pretty cute. Anyway, you're just going to need a few things. And most importantly, I want to emphasize, don't be afraid to pull out a good knife for a cheese board. It can be the key to success. Okay, let's get started with our cheese. Are you ready to build a cheese board? It's so exciting. Like I said in the intro, it's really important to choose cheeses that you want to eat. No shame in cheddar or pepper jack, but let's follow that formula that I told you about. First, we start with a brie. Brie is just one of those cheeses that everybody seems to enjoy. And you can use a round like I have, or sometimes they come in wedges. Either is fine. There's no wrong place to start. It doesn't matter. You could put it here, you could put it here, just put it here. Because we're going to be containing everything as we go, if we decide that something's not in the right place, we can just pick it up and move it. One of the questions that I get asked a lot is, do I need to remove the rind? And the answer is yes and no. If the rind is edible, then leave it on, but if it's not, it's really nice to remove it. So on a brie, the rind is edible, even if that's not your preference, it is edible, so I'm gonna leave it on. So we start with a brie. Here it is, it's our base. Then we add something sliceable. And for my sliceable cheese, I'm using a smoked Gouda. This obviously has a very smoky flavor. It's very delicious, it's easy to like, and I'm just gonna plop it here. Now, my sliceable cheese could be cheddar, pepper jack, manchego, anything that will kind of require a knife, so keep that in mind. And then next is to add something spreadable. And for my spreadable cheese, I'm going to be using this Boursin, or Boursin, if you're fancy. These are available at Costco. You can get them at Target. They're just very widely available. And my experience is they are the first thing to disappear from a cheese board. And they have this nice little piece of foil, so they kind of come with their own little plate. And you just plop that down somewhere that makes sense. Now, this is the minimum. I'm gonna show you kind of a very elaborate, all out, kind of like the cheese board that I would make for my family on Christmas Eve. And to do that, I'm going to add a couple of extra cheeses. But I want you to know, if you just did 3, these would work beautifully. So hang with me. I'm going to add a little ramekin of delicious Hurley House pimento cheese. Try and put it there. And then I'm going to add a wedge of manchego. And like I said, the rind on manchego is not edible, so I've actually cut it off. We want to remove the rind if the rind is not edible. And so basically I have added another sliceable cheese and another spreadable cheese. And this again would be like for a cheese board that needs to be like a meal to feed 6 to 8 people, you might want to tack on a couple extra cheeses. But if you were just doing like a small appetizer cheese board, these 3 are plenty. So these are our cheeses. Now let's keep going. I told you that we needed to add a fruit, and you can add green apples, you can add blackberries, you can add pears, you can add dried fruit. I'm going to go with a big bunch of beautiful seedless grapes. They add elegance without any work. They just sort of like drape themselves effortlessly wherever you want them to go. And I'm also going to add a little mason jar of dried apricots. Now, one thing I want to point out is as we start to add things, I want you to imagine yourself as a guest at your own cheese board. If you walked up to this cheese board, could you get to the actual cheese? There's nothing more frustrating than wanting to get to that brie but not being able to. Sometimes I find myself needing to kind of scoot the cheese a little closer to the edges so that my guests have easy access to things that will need some slicing. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so we've added our fruit. Next, we need a nut. Literally any nut will work. Tonight, I am using some of the maple chipotle roasted nuts from Hurley House, putting them in a container so I can move them around. You could use Marcona almonds, you could use candied pecans, you could use raw almonds, raw walnuts. There's no wrong choice. Pistachios are really beautiful on a cheese board because they add that pop of green. Actually, I'm gonna move these over here and see what we think. Maybe that looks better. Okay, so that is our nut. And then I talked about adding a sticky thing. A sticky thing is a honey or a jam or a chutney. And what I have right here is a tiny little jar of blackberry jam. This is part of the Hurley House cheese board kit that we sell. And I'm going to put the blackberry jam on top of the white brie and spread it around. I just think it is such a beautiful contrast in color, and it tastes really delicious too. You can choose any jam and put it on top of brie and it works. Apricot, raspberry, fig, blackberry. I've never tried strawberry now that I think about it, but I bet you could do that too. So there's a sticky thing. Because I'm going above and beyond on this cheese board, I'm actually gonna add another sticky thing. This is a fig kind of chutney jam that I have used before. I got this at Central Market. It goes really well with these sliceable cheeses, so I'm just gonna stick it here in its own little jar. Like, it's so cute and little. Put a little stir in there, and it's ready for people to help themselves. And then the last kind of mandatory thing that you would need to add, because we have our brie, sliceable, spreadable, fruit, nut, sticky thing, would be crackers. And if I were going to finish my cheese board right now, I would just use the crackers and fill in all these spots, and it would look beautiful. But I kind of want to show you a few other things to include that are really fun, so I'm going to keep going before I add my crackers. I love to add a little ramekin of something salty and briny, like these Cornichon dill pickles. They're so incredibly delicious. I could eat a whole jar. So I'm going to put them right here. And I'm kind of noticing that I need to move my boursin out a little bit to make some more room so that people can reach it. And I'm going to bring in that little beautiful glass pedestaled bowl of green olives. If you're not a fan of olives, you can skip them. I think you either love them or you hate them, but those look good there. And then I always love to include something kind of fun and sweet. And this is a little ramekin of a Hurley House Rice Krispie treat that I have cut up into little cubes. I just think it's kind of cute. I've done this with like caramels, chocolate covered espresso beans. I think it's fun to have something sweet on a cheese board that's meant to be like a full meal, because it's kind of like dessert. So as I look at this, before I add my crackers, I'm just gonna adjust a few things. I wanna make sure these are kind of close to the edge. As I look at this, I kind of want to move this here, maybe put this here. I've got my little jar that can nuzzle up against the grapes. And now I'm ready to add in what I think takes a cheese board kind of into the meal category, and that is some sort of cured meat. Now, what I have here is a salami, I'm just grabbing it, that I have gone ahead and sliced for the sake of time, but you definitely want to pre-slice whatever meat that you decide to put on a cheese board, if you want to put meat. Meat is totally optional, but I do find that it makes it seem a little more substantial. Having trouble getting these guys to fan out. You can buy sliced pepperoni, you can buy sliced prosciutto, you can buy any kind of summer sausage, or like I have here, a salami, and just fan it out. Now I'm ready to add my crackers. If there's any final adjustments, make them before you add your crackers. It's a little trickier to move things once you add the crackers. But I just like to come into these little obvious spaces and put the crackers in, and any cracker goes. I think it's a good idea to have one that's kind of neutral and not strongly flavored. Honestly, one of my favorite crackers is saltines. They just are the perfect backdrop for anything, and they're so well seasoned. They taste amazing, so don't be ashamed of the saltine. Then I have this other fun kind of seeded, I don't know, fruit and nut cracker. It's kind of fancy cracker. Those always look really special. Just kind of go in here. But again, make sure you're not blocking access to the cheese from the edge of the board. So maybe I'll put some of these over here. Come in around my olives with some more. And then maybe right here, finish up with some more of these guys. It's really just wherever you see an open spot, insert a few crackers, and that's the name of the game. And there we go. Now, the only thing left to do here is to tuck my tools that I would want my guests or my family to use to access the cheese. I'm going to put a sharp knife here with the manchego, and honestly, I might even choose to slice this ahead of time just to make it a little bit simpler. It's really a hard cheese. And then with my brie, I'm gonna put this one. With my Gouda, I'm gonna put this one because it has a nice sharp edge, so just tuck this under. Always make sure that each little component has a spreader. I definitely need, let's see, need something for this pimento cheese, so I'm gonna put this spreader here, and then we can't forget the boursin in the corner. I'm gonna put this one here, and guests will just kind of figure it out. Your family will figure it out. Another thing that I should have included that I'm just now thinking of is oftentimes with things like olives and pickles, it is helpful to have a little ramekin or a little jar of toothpicks so that people can just, not have to go in with their hands. I apologize for leaving that out, but you can use your imagination. You're a smart bunch. And here we go. This is a really full, really beautiful, really elegant, delicious, amazing cheese board that we made using my formula. In conclusion, it's start with a brie, add something sliceable, add something spreadable, add a fruit, a nut, a sticky thing, and a cracker. Every time it works, every time. Then come in with extras if you want to, but if you don't want to, it's gonna be amazing. Even at its base, it's gonna be amazing. I hope that this tutorial has helped you, and I hope that you build beautiful cheese boards this holiday season.